Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I review martial arts books and talk about other martial arts related subjects. And in today's review, I'm going to be reviewing The Deceptive Hands of Wing Chun by Douglas Wong, published in 1982. This was one of the first Chinese martial arts books I had, the first book on Wing Chun I ever had, I think. Mr. Wong is not to be confused with Master Wong. They are two different people. But anyway, Douglas Wong has studied multiple Kung Fu styles, and he's been associated with Hollywood for a while. He was I think, a trainer and choreographer for, the Hercules series and the Xena series back in the mid to late 90s. And in this book, I find it interesting that to start off with, he refers to Wing Chun as a non-traditional Kung Fu system. He doesn't really go in depth anymore into that, but I find that interesting because I think many people would say that it definitely has trappings of a traditional style. But there you go. In the beginning, and this is a very brief book, but he presents three different versions of the origins of Wing Chun, which on the one hand could be somewhat frustrating, but I do like that even though he's not necessarily taking an academic approach to it, he's presenting the information he has, and if it's contradicting, he's at least providing the reader with the option of choosing which contradiction they'd like to believe. And immediately following that is a brief lineage chart of the so-called Wing Chun family tree. Chapters 3 and 4 cover the different gates and zones of Wing Chun, using the center line as a primary point of reference. Then you have the upper, middle, and lower gate, as well as inner and outer gates. And they also cover the basic blocks and strikes. That's followed by a chapter on sensitivity, which covers both single hand and double hand chi sao, including a number of different sequences between the different partners. And following that is a chapter on kicking, which presents three fundamental kicks, all executed with the heel of the foot. And then those kicks are shown being used in chi sao sequences. So I do appreciate the continuity there, that we've talked about the importance of sensitivity of the chi sao training. And here's a new skill, and here's how to incorporate that skill in the thing that we've already covered. A good portion of the book is taken up with the Chum Kui form, the second of the three empty hand forms in Wing Chun Kung Fu. I think that this is an interesting choice. It kind of bothers me, to be honest. It bothers me that it does not include Xiu Lim Tao, the Xiu Nim Tao, the first form in Wing Chun Kung Fu. But instead we move directly on to the second. One might argue that he's already covered a lot of the fundamental hand strikes from the first form in hand positions, Bong Sao and Tong Sao. In the preceding chapters, maybe you don't need a full section on that form. But he does note that his version of Chum Kui is different in that there are more kicks incorporated, and there are sequences toward the end. This is when they occur, where in other versions of this form, one would be, it's not really a sidestep, it's stepping, let's say, toward the left and the right. And he turns those steps into kicks as well. And after that, he has a section on freestyle sparring techniques, and this includes a sequence showing a defense against a double tiger claw strike, which nobody's ever attacked me with that. And then a very short section that shows the weapons that are used in Wing Chun, the staff and the knives, and then shows a few sequences on the wooden dummy. Not the entire wooden dummy form, not even the beginning of a wooden dummy form, just here are some sequences from that. So you'll notice that I was able to tell you everything that was in that book very briefly. It's not a big book. The prose, I think it's an okay intro into the fundamental principles and techniques of Wing Chun. And there's a lot of emphasis in the text on practicality. And I do appreciate that. And I think that what is presented, what we get, particularly the section on, the reference points, the different zones, that was very educational to me when I first started out. I think that they are good reference points, and no matter what martial art you take, upper, middle, and lower gates, they make sense, no matter what martial art you originate from. So I do like that. And again, it shows the basic techniques, a few fundamental blocks, kicks, and strikes. The cons, as I've mentioned, it's very brief overall. So it's, I got it for pretty cheap. The cover price, if you can find it for that these days, is less than $10. There isn't a whole lot of depth to this book. So if you're looking for that depth, you're not going to find it here. Another aspect that I mentioned that bothered me is that it jumps right into the second form without really presenting the first form. So it's not sequential by any stretch. It's not, I guess it's not meant to be a true introductory, because why would you have an introduction to Wing Chun and not show the first form? As I mentioned, perhaps the inclusion of the hand techniques by themselves, maybe the author considered that enough of a primer. But I don't know. From a reader's perspective, the first several chapters seem like a very low drag primer on this is what Wing Chun is. But it seems to deviate from that through the rest of the book. It's almost like the book couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a primer or whether it simply wanted to showcase various parts of Wing Chun somewhat haphazardly. So I hate to say it because it was my first Wing Chun book. There are better books on Wing Chun out there. So, recommendations. Again, if you can find it for cheap, like I did, and you have no background in Wing Chun, this wouldn't be a bad book to get. I do think that, the first several chapters on the gates and the zones, and the fundamental techniques probably did give me a pretty good idea of, frankly, a lot of the most useful bits of Wing Chun. I'd still hold those things valuable. If you're already a Wing Chun student, unless you are a student of Mr. Wong, I don't think you need to get this. There are better sources out there. If you are looking to compare different styles of Wing Chun, the fact that he specifically calls out his version of Chum Kui as being different because of the added kicks, this might be a good reference for that. If that's your very specific, mostly academic desire, let me compare this form as done by different Wing Chun schools. Excuse me. So, it's not a bad book. I'm glad that I have it in my collection and that I found it at the stage of the martial arts development that I was. But again, there are definitely more in-depth Wing Chun books out there, especially these days. So, that's all I have for this week. I know it was a little bit brief, but so was the book. So, see you guys next week. Thank you.